Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Lowell House Poemicals Society on this rainy April evening in pandemic 2020. Today, we have the luxury of a double reading given by Marina Connelly, class of 2012, PhD 2020, and Maryam Hiradfar, class of 2021. The Poemical Society was begun in the 60s by C.D. Lewis when he was resident in the house for a year as a friend and guest of Master Zeph Stewart and his wife, Diana. And Cecil Lewis was then the Norton Professor of Poetry. And later on in that decade, Marianne Moore, who was affiliated with the house, continued with these meetings and readings. So out of these poemicals, as we call them, many writers, poets, scholars of poetry, and teachers of poetry have advanced into American letters. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming from Melbourne in Australia and Galveston in Texas, Marina Connelly and Maryam Hiradfar. Ladies, you're on camera.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Just from my beginning, thank you all for coming. It's a joy to be reading with Maryam. That is a primary pleasure. And I'm very, very honoured to have this opportunity to read to you again. So I'll begin with a short poem, which is an opening and an invitation, but doesn't have a title. The space in the page is lovelier always open than my poem can be wide, merciful, and the wager is too high now to dirty the silence or the possible with anything wanting more perfection or less generosity than a story.
Very beautiful. Thank you, Marina. And before I begin reading, I would also like to thank Kevin for the introduction. And it's also such an honor to be reading with you, Marina. I would also like to thank everyone for joining us. I know it's a busy and potentially stressful time for all of us. So I really do appreciate you being here. And I hope that our poetry hopefully can bring a little bit of warmth. And I know that we have guests from all of the different time zones in the United States, and I also have friends joining from Europe. So thank you so much for the flexibility. I know it can be inconvenient in some of the time zones. And I would also like to thank all of the members of the Lowell House community, our dear Diana and Dorothy, David and Nina, Caitlin, Beth, as well as Kevin, Ben, and really all of the members of the Poemicals who have been very, very supportive and have helped us organize this event. And now I would like to follow by reading a poem about the soft strangeness of some new experiences that often walk into our lives without us noticing if you're dreaming or if you're awake. This poem is called 7:07. 7:07 in the morning, the oak trees in the yard with their bare bodies wrapped only by a thin linen of fog stand. 7:07 in the morning, woken up gently, they hear conversations of travelers, stories from another land. 7:07 in the morning, preparing a warm welcome, they open their eyes, looking around. Hush, such is the line between dreams and reality. Gone.
I have another poem for you called Bank of New South Wales Planisphere. A planisphere is an old way of reading the cycle of the planets at night, like a little record sleeve. Culling Books, 2017. My father's libraries a many-chambered largesse, damp and yellow and cracking, defunct and concerned ultimately with the spirit. Luther Levinas, Ulanov, and other homely syllables letter an ox blood and blue homogeneity, and even here creeps the warm dry of a eucalypt Sunday in the spongy paving underfoot, the breeze block heat, and the electric bulb for a sanctuary lamp. In this dry and this in between, an airplane grounded makes this truly a grace day, comes inching quietly to the sky, not in wide blue, although it is a wide blue, nor real air, although it is, but in the mildew and grime, meters of scrawl bound and labeled suddenly gesturing, clock punk backward, cracks between letting in light. How the light gets in, like crabbed stars. Come, evening, says the whales, the city lights pricking the view from Royal Park. And the smeared January sundown after dinner invites home in a handful stack of pamphlets on first aid and salts and new vegan cookery signed in Waterstones, London, 1976, transported otherwise, as this paper has been too, sleeve softened and webbed, disc like a vinyl turning the year in a handspan. Cipher me that sky new, for a mind waking again, little, new to yards of books in a Catholic bunker library. My father, beekeeper, bookkeeper, retires with the dog and a mint New Yorker delivered weekly. With me in Massachusetts are shiny leaflets on homeopathy and an Australian hymnal in cellophane, soft wattle yellow and green. How the light flickers, lights flicker and quicken, lamp in the sanctuary, city in a heat wave, city lights electric in the grey goings down of the sun and the flimsy map of the stars from Melbourne as guide.
Very beautiful. And to continue, I would like to talk about spaces and take us back to the corner of a courtyard back in my home country, Iran, where I grew up. Imagination and memories can sometimes fill the empty, physically unreachable spaces. And this is how I connect with the old berry tree and the little rusty swing hanging from its branches. It's called the old berry tree. Your roots sipping the cold winter water from the valley far by half an hour, you have been here for long. Swinging on, my hands clutching the steel chains clutching your hands, we spent hours in the quiet corner of the courtyard. My feet against the sun, trying to reach far to touch your leaves, you were the center I would return to every Friday. White sheets, plastic bowls, hold the corner or it goes. Eyes closed, you range your summer kindness, white and sweet. On the edge of the concrete playground, by the blue pool, he was sitting. Gray shirt, gray hair, covered in dust. She has seen my childhood, and I, climbing up, have seen the entire valley. I think of you from time to time, reaching my hands out, bridging an ocean and 2 continents in between. I can feel your glossy leaves, kind and green. I know that the mountain echoes still the quiet whisper of the river. I know that your branches still shiver in the snow of winter. I know that you remember me among the I don't know how many childhoods you have seen.
Beautiful. Here is another case history, another kind of remembering as well. This is for MG. Rag lacuna in a yellow lit room, brought to high meniscus by the brim of years whose shimmer, like the slide of Javanese puppeteers or a milk recollection, sticks. Reach out your hands. Last winter, the dog in a psychotic break tore his abdomen. That's a funny word. Minimal men, all the real men are women, and here we sit, 2 in a blue house with the world between us, spread out sea blue for the map maker to study or classicist to pick at with a teaspoon, careful in the right hand, pith cap, funny, in the left. Here are mine. I caught the bus here, and the chill has got to them, chipping at the backs, here and here and here, feathery Thomas. hear the palm rivers flow and trace a scene known in the local fizz of a finger pad, all accustomed to this topography, anticipating a folded valley, a resistance where the thumbs join. On a fence, he jumped, and the pickets slid and slit, insensitive to resistance as muscle makes. Anesthesia, funny spelt, drives a dog to distraction. It wasn't until August the distraction, funny, finally seemed to subside. He slept abed a night, and the tear seemed to heal, come to heal, ha. Writing, bending my hand around the pen, a digit split. You might see the bone, touch it. There now. The salve sticks now in the yellow light. Here, the gut. And Maryam.
Thank you. And I would like to follow by acknowledging the vast yet mysterious nature of our existence and experiences that cannot be contained in anything, let alone described in words. This poem is called An Impossible Task. Hands immersed in the clay of time, space bending under the weight of your look, a room, a wheel, a candle by the drawn curtain. Your soul is as comfortable as the clay resting. Bach's preludes, notes as clear as your recollection of the day. Layer by layer you mix in the water, just as the rain molded your heart into a flower vase. Remake the time, remake the space. My clay pot, hold an ocean in you, hold the same waves that brought me to the shore. Second by second, comfort approaches, getting more clear, like a ghost coming out of a foggy forest to meet you by the river. It is the same, it is itself. It will hold the sky and the sea. This vase is perfect. It can contain eternity. You sit by the wheel, melting smoothly into the dark blue that your heart bore this whole time. You pour into the vase. The candle burns still, the curtain blows to the fugue of the wind, and all that is left now is a broken vase and an ocean that bears the name of time.
Beautiful. This is a poem which was written in memoriam Bill Kraut, another long-standing member of Lowell House. It's simply called For WRC. Wrenching season. A flaccid nor'easter drops heavy in the night and leaves a litter sliding heavily from the trees on a tin can cab roof, thumping half-hearted, soft, wet. Tinny radio prophets evangelize any old loss, lovely mundane, hair by laser tech, sharp white as the weak spring sun, or weight, pounds that slither and melt like snow, or seem to. With the snow I travel, you would, as I always will, always this way. Roads black flowing, narrowed now, the hospice a pink patterned duvet and bath bin, also pink, set atop, precarious. I have sung my way through the United Methodist hymnal, inserting a garbled syllable when I only knew the tune, or the Anglican book, reaching for one of the great four, for holophrastic comfort, recurring, returning with a sigh, all praise to thee, my God, this night, though any light is grainy and protesting. And every Bach or Schubert lead an unaccustomed tilt will render tunefully enough. I love nothing less, more even, but the words show both readings. Pause, beloved, for breath. Settle at Moon River, someone to watch over me, somewhere, each for a lullaby, each to chart place away from the tasteful conceit of medical New England, its cords hidden under a flounce of softened bed linen. In the hospital bowel in the city, snow scraped off the way, subway egress grimy, A and E equally gritty. It's fecal here, the mud mix, beloved. Breathe or sing. Mumble the notes for longing or loss and march the aisles, miles of lino corridor with the communion of saints, at ease in company. I love nothing less, more or less. And this day a cab ride is a Keystone car chase, retching, sobbing, sing-along on the side of my life, pausing, turning, with the light which renews itself slowly, echoes a motherese in your breath, beloved, or my singing.
Thank you. Marina, why don't you read another one and then I'll follow after that.
All right. I have another lullaby, this written for a very beloved niece. So lullabies seem to be the order of the day right now. Lullaby. The evening tide is calmed. The roosting gull will dream, settles her beak under wing seam. The air holds sea salt balm. Luli, luli, lullaby. Not any pin-bright star, nor the placid moon gleam, nor the warmth of the lamp beam can do you any harm. Luli, luli, lullaby. For I will hold you gently, come high tide, comet or tremor, until the sun shows brightly green and yellow on the water. Lullaby, lullaby, luli, lullaby. The first song of the dawning will grow the leaf bud, will green the orchard, and softly still your dreaming. Luli, luli, lullaby. But now, while you are sleeping, sleeps too the seabird, shines the star, yet unheard. Rest well until the morning. Lullaby, lullaby, luli, lullaby.
Very beautiful. And following Marina's lovely lullaby, I would like to take us to a pink, calm afternoon, followed by a seemingly calm yet turbulent in nature night. I will read the pink afternoon first and then the red night. Pink afternoon. She was as still as the horizon, eyes bearing the signature of a friendship lifelong, hands clasped on the back, certain of a future undoubted. She bore the serenity of 1,000 shores. Pair of red shoes in hand, the sand gives in under my feet, grains surrendering to the weight of a body searching for the wisdom of seashells. Unconstrained, a golden band holds the heart of the sky together. Obliviously flowing, the waves perform their daily ritual. Particles holding the history of laws undefeated wash away the sand castles victoriously, while a girl in her blue swimsuit scoops the sun out of the wet sand. Lifeguards gone, we sit in the car with doors open, strawberries tasting like all the afternoons pink and sweet. Crows gather for their sunset feast. Loud, we, the uninvited guest, listen to their inharmonious symphony till dawn. And now the red night. Southern night, empty street. We walk down to the shore. Moonlight, a sandpaper sheet, polishes the body of a rusty Chevy Impala. Ocean waves, street lamps in the fog. Colors change at this hour of night. Light is black, the sand as red as the fur of a fox. Low tide, seashells, the sea opens up its heart, black and wide, far from home, now a single light from a distant ship calls us. Dreamers hypnotized, we walk the way gravity draws us. Believers, eyes trusting, hands holding the claws of a deceptive night. The ocean is kind.
Beautiful. Here is another ocean poem to follow. This is called Swansea, and it's for Dee. The water murmurs, comfort ye into the thinnest day. Comfort of salt and white sunlight at noon, a goose calling. I crouch at its margin, all boots and parka, haunch on ankle. Dorothy and I have shared a box of sandwiches, chicken salad. I wonder, does she hear it too? Comfort ye. When I am made of sky only, I cannot breathe. This October morning seeks poetry in wonder white. I know you hear the lap and prattle, a several music. Comfort sings the water, breathing in and out, offers up a waste of shellfish halves. In Cambridge, a downpour blackens the sidewalk and binds the smaller leaves in a yellow silt, black and corn yellow or gold.
Very beautiful. And we've all been comforted by the flow of water in the river or in the ocean or a lake. And I would like to continue by another ocean poem, which is called The Two Blues. And the title was chosen by Diana, actually. So. In its formidable existence, yet in its gentle presence you stand. With eyes you struggle to keep open when the wind teases them for a moment, you stare at the vicinity of a place where seamlessly the two blues merge. The moisture sits on your skin, the sand twists in your hair, and the breeze brings a gift of the ocean smell, fresh taste of salt to your mouth. Relentless beat of the waves rings in your head, in your ears, and you echo. You are water, flowing with all senses engaged.
It's such a redolent evocation of that feeling. It's beautiful, Maryam.
Thanks, Marina.
Here is another. This is called Asylum Waking, and I will follow it with a revision. You are still alive, says the flashlight every quarter hour, casting drunk rays across white sheets and cracked lids until a perspex sun gains clout enough to show a little. But I am alone, and the night nurse unlocks doors in the half-light, toilets, showers, TV, and life is unsustainable. Bodies stretch and turn in protest. Feet find cold linoleum. We are lithium safe here, spirit level and secure on Prozac, small hope of wobbling lightness. I listen as the unit wakes and day thickens. You are alive. Life is long. It isn't. Is it sustainable? A rose mallow, hips swaying out the kitchen window, sings, teases. Come away. Glorious the sun, the sky, the pinks and the Marshall sunflower lionheart on the porch. Blue gold day with a dream of air. Firm locks and a many-plied safety nearly keep us, double Johnnies and Dixie cups, from the ache of the morning. Maryam.
Yes. So waking up to a fog, to a space where nothing is visible or predictable beyond a meter in front of you, brings me to my poem, The Drunken Morning. Blue-gray, still, cool air, winter chill. Well-known, beloved face of yesterday, shy stranger hiding today. Under a blanket of fog, thick, secure, you must feel warm. Morning feet like roots, damp floor of balcony or vase, dew on your skin, coldest mirror to reflect tears of morning. Can I bear your pure soul, or will it drown my roots, dripping down my ankle? Birds of thought, momentary recall. Shooting stars out of the nearby teal vapor, distance and illusion, blindness, a humble reality humming, and ears still dreaming. Will I wake up, or will it be lifted, this navy blanket? Palms holding on, coffee in a green cup, warmth dripping in veins, you, a palm tree, ever heard of bare branches shivering in the snow? Birds of thought, momentary recall. Fly away shooting stars, in the land of snow, seeds of surprise, plant them someday.
Seeds of surprise, plant them someday. Here's another. This is called Asylum Blues, a lullaby again. Lie still, listening for the leather-soled night nurse. He beats 1, 2, 1, security along the corridor in 15-minute sets. A lullaby, you say. Say, lie still and quiet. But watching the sky lit grow electric and 1, 2, 1, 2, fade lilac in a spring morning to cry for. Doctor gives Luvox and Kaddish on Fridays. A thanks be, says she. The lamps outside extinguish and laundry carts roll over the courtyard. I can't write words. Unlock them. At 7 with the other locks, all of them. Bathroom, phone. Wide now. Open in the morning for a lullaby. Leather beat and blue ooh scale. Keys rattle and voices rise, forgetful. There might still be good in us, one says. 2, ooh, flashlight in the blue. Quiet.
Thank you. Marina, would you read another one and then I can follow?
Of course, with pleasure. This is called Villanelle. I wrote it for a bet. Villanelles are highly structured formal poems, lyrics that require the juggling of 2 lines which are repeated and 2 rhymes which are repeated. And there's little room for deviation. And some scoundrel set me a bet to rhyme X's and GUEs. So let's see how this goes. Sleep-eyed and fumbling at the sink at 7, recall the phoenix, posing its weary injunction, no less glorious for fatigue. Get up again, undone or ashen, just the repetition forms a radix. Lazarus too was smelly, pajama stank, composter chic, and surely felt misgiven returning from the morgue, sleep-eyed and fumbling at the sink at 7, recall the phoenix. How, rising from the ashes, grey and powdered calisthenics, overpowered, overjoyed in a dazzle of burned bronze wings, get up again, undone or ashen, just the repetition forms a radix, he might as well have said. Rising's the basis for no meager ethics, a dying daily thing, daily dying, something upright augurs. Sleep-eyed and fumbling at the sink at 7 to recall the phoenix who did it again and again, bathing in the dust, left by a hex, to continue a pattern of recurring resurrection and bear the intrigue. Get up again, undone or ashen, the repetition itself forms a radix in now wash and dresses, now flick the kettle, glance across the guardian's fresh polemic, unsure and not unscathed, but here now, step in the mundane gigue, sleep-eyed and fumbling with the taps at 7, recall the phoenix, get up again, undone or ashen, just the repetition forms a radix. Maryam.
Yes, what a breath, and so beautiful and so vivid. So I would like to read about moments. So what is it about moments that matter and which moments matter in the first place? The next poem is called In Between. Between the time when your breath froze in the air, forming clouds of ice, and when your breath warms the hands of a friend, there was a moment. Between the time when you lay down paralyzed like a fallen leaf, curled up in disguise, behind all closed doors under warm sheets, and the time when the load of the looks from 100 eyes bent the thin radiant filament of your being, there was a moment. There was a moment between the time when you last embraced the friend and between the second when not even vacuum surrounded you, remember? The moment when you wished to be dissolved in the indigo clouds of the evening. There was a moment between the first and the last. There was a moment between liquid and the glass. There was a moment between the flower and the stone. There was a moment. I swear the clock was ticking, your heart was beating, yet the only glorious mark on the canvas of your memory spells the word nothing. There was a moment so many times, more times than there was not. In between the extraordinary happens something we call life.
There's an extraordinary, in that poem, Maryam, reduction to the smallest and then this exquisite build-up. So thank you.
Thank you.
This is a poem called Sonnet, just plain old sonnet. I've always been interested in experimenting with traditional forms as well. I wanted to write you a poem more elegant than my best dress, though still with the urgency of a suicide considered in the morning and mourned before completion, morning papers and tea and cereal coaxing. Stay a while in this love. In love, the sun is glorious. The sky exhales you today. The lilacs make you sneeze and the maker rolls his eyes benign. No menace. And so I want a voice. I'll sing to you, as full of rue as Ella singing April, and devout and trusting as a Bach chorale that sends the Christ to sleep and seeks its peace. I would sing to you a love song, loving sun, organza fine, home as oatmeal, lilacs living. Maryam.
Yes, thank you. So this one is called An Ill-Defined Distribution. A hall of mirrors, up, down, side around, exposed, unraveled. There's nowhere to hide. I had never seen my head from the back. I didn't know my elbow was sharp. You average me over time, but fixed in space. I over the infinity of space at one point in time. You see, the math doesn't care. The result is the same. It's the truth. I wish I could see me through your eyes once, and you through the mirrors of this booth. I run around every corner. I gather up all the angles. The geometry is perfect, no incongruous triangles. Why then we get an error, putting 2 and 2 together? It's almost like a sign shift. Did we start with the wrong conjecture? I know we should be original. I know we'd like to be creative, but maybe this time it matters if we start from negative or positive. Let's walk through our solutions. Let's explain each line out loud. Maybe we'll come up with something different, or we can settle on some middle ground. The middle ground, I guess, is simple, with no mirrors in the first place. When you come tonight, bring your pencil. We'll write something new, no need to erase. Oh, I forget. Besides the pencil, please bring some stones with you. We'll cover the mirrors with scratch papers, then throw the stones and shatter them too.
I love the invitation, when you come tonight, bring your pencil. Got power to it. This is the closest I've ever got to slam poetry. It's not, but it gets somewhere. I like to run, and when I run, I like to listen to 80s rock and roll. So this is called Ode to That Tune of Billy Joel's, Icarus on the Cross Trainer. Does everybody know the song Only the Good Die Young? Its protagonist is called Virginia. In 2 seconds. Orpheus will have his lute all his own. Latterly, Virginia, come on, now, sweating girl, an acrid Nike tee drooping and chosen in part to keep all beasts at bay. Run. Anti-clockwork, unsyncopate, a foot per paddle rapport, relearning the motion by a hemiplegic drop foot upbeat, drum roll, legs stretched, driving down, back, through, again, bum tight, heels under toes, fuck Orpheus, do, who couldn't know much about a shuffle rhythm. But this, too, is a question that costs, and if it does, limbs from lungs, words for words, might all as well be subject to lactic rip made guilty, gaily pro-air in its deprivation, fatally aching, reeky and commensurate. The machine creaks and teeters, wings a crumpled paper damp, bolted at the blade bones under a nylon sports bra, unnecessary V, blown out with an in-breath. That boy, Leonardo's other fledgling, had an apparatus out of feathers, father given. It was gorgeous, running girl, I know. a metric frame of struts and supporting beams, lovely bellows unfurling, unfolding the air in a languid-looking waft while his heart kicked up just as this one pounds. Good flyer he, too good for his own sustenance, and it remains to ask whether the wax melting or the scorch or too much air than to call with even nicks quicker. My lantern lungs are gasping suckers, and my wings risk puncture now or battery, flop, quads kill. But it's an imperative in the chorus, V. The chart topper saved a fellow radio flyer I knew who, landing, exhausted, threaded a hose back through the window of his Volvo and settled in. He tuned into, got thrown a line. The bitter realization, bitter blood taste, brings a girl back down. Better luck next time in time or distance run. I'm a neophyte, Virginia, and no Olympian.
Very beautiful. So this next one is called On How to Unwind. I remember that evening well. You with your messy hair and a ball of yarn on the wooden chair, sitting, knitting, and breathing. Well, one does not have to try to recall, to imagine what the senses know so well. The lullaby puts you to sleep the same way that your smile makes me young. And again, I didn't have to try to keep a second of your knitting in my brain. That often has to read and repeat the string of numbers on the back of a card. I am sitting here remaking that scarf. The needles mind their own business. They know what string to follow, which knot to cross. And I submit to them, to my fingers and the needles that know you so well, better than I ever would. The art knows the artist, or no, the art is the artist. And if ever I get stuck in between the beads, I know that it is me who is perhaps caught up in too little, too much, and not the strings.
I have a few short poems left. This is called A Light to Lighten. Blind woman walks in the Carlton Gardens, but they are Clarice Beckett oil of July with chalk lights whose smudges encroach gentle on the blue. A goose call shows the pond, a looking glass come Monday morning. Museum's dome sails closer, brighter arc than the moon unseeable. And an ambulance siren and a bike squad on Rathdown Street take no air belonging to the still and only hold its boundary. Maryam.
Oh, yes. And I will follow by a short poem. It's called A Branch. Away from the cast iron bridges, away from the bold skyscrapers that shine in the glitter of the moon at night, on the other side of the offices, bustling with sleepy eyes on a Monday morning, there is a tree branch whose skin touches the palms of the wind, awake, alert, and conscious.
So still, beautiful. This is another small one, maybe a letter it's called. Dear S, writing, remembers in the night a hymn for the love of God, for, it says, is broader than the measure of the mind, and she wonders what's that measure, doesn't know. A page though, soft bolt, gentle expansion given to covering or holding syllables, materials, music bits for the promise of all and everything, of course, whether I love or it does, loves, never tells, it or I can never tell, nor am I sure I could wish to. Maryam.
Yes, beautiful. So there's always a question that remains unanswered for us at the back of our minds. The fluid interpretation of events that happen in our lives or people who walk into and out of our lives can be something elusive. This next one is called You Will Never Know.
Yes.
You were dancing to the drumbeats of a march unprecedented, untouched by the battles fought in the pages of history books. You danced freely, you were young. You were searching for nothing, for you were searching the white hawk of luck, the dove of peace. You knew nothing. You were crowned by the morning wind itself crowned by the tears of the moon, by friends of the night. You were dancing to the drumbeats of a heart untouched, unrestricted by the love songs written in the frame of letters. You were written by love. You were found by the river in your white gown. You were oblivious when all you tried was to lose yourself in the forest of thought. You were crowned, you were worshipped. Startled, you kept dancing. Your dancing, the reason the wind carried to you the silver crown. You found your palace, you knew it was right. Hair as white as snow, snow as white as your heart. You still wear the silver crown. Heavy it feels on your neck holding up the promise of the dance. The dance now wonders if a blessing was the crown or a curse all along.
Deeply fantastical and powerful.
Thanks, Marina.
This is called Door Knocker, a prayer. I too much lovingly mule crier, make this gentle rapping, pa and pa, in a double pattern taps or a morning song, knocking soft, knowing the body of inky spots that would be, were they. Of course, I make my intervention all and only wanting its answer. Who is it? I'll tell you. Come in. I would or will. See, I have already condemned me, this yellow 11, when I came, corpus and beat. For all the green song, the world at large, the day will only yield with a violence done slightly to solitude. Knuckle holler, hollowed sound, I'll write it, willing, enter. Maryam.
Thank you. I've always told you, but that line where it says, me, this yellow 11 when I came, that's my favorite.
You.
And the final poem that I would want to read is about celebrating our vulnerable, imperfect, yet beautiful human nature. And it's called Fully Human. Something bent inside me, gave in to a gentle touch of a feather. For worse or for better, it collapsed on itself. Eyes looking down, soul looking up. You were a seashell, billions of words, formulas imagined ever concentrated in a pearl. Imperfections to perfection, you had a ladder from the heart of the ocean to Jupiter, re-looking up, you already there. Something bent inside me. It shined behind your human skin, a glitter from the history of all supernovae. You bore the cosmos in the palm of your calm hands. Thanks for taking us back into our little universes. Yeah.
Something that Maryam does so well is that mystical language with the scientific lexicon as well, and it ends up being explosively powerful. So thank you. All right. Here is my last poem for the evening. It's evening where you are and early morning where I am. This is called Poem on a Birthday. I am sat with my ordinary prayer for faith, hope, and so forth, for asylum that finds its way in written forms. My hands are 31 years old writing, and my words are, crying voice, fewer. A borrowed arm is older, with more propensity in its fibers for holding onto things, and both are feathered in case of need, body in time, letting little by little its threaded song out for faith and love, and wanting that it will be heard, small thing too, ruffled where its lines end on one side, mimicking the warmth of the wind, susurrance, or the phatic romance of the sparrows around, or calling, too, in the heady whiff of the roses about, here is a wish, this one afternoon, gorgeously full, made by another, a crane outliving the phobia of her wingspan. Maryam, do you have anything else you will share this evening?
That is all that I had prepared for tonight. So I think that, yeah.
Me also.
Mm-hmm.
So Kevin.
Well, perhaps Diana can supply us with an encomium, but first let me just thank Ben for arranging this and Beth for sending out all the messages, and thank David and Nina for keeping us going. And then finally, thank you, Marina and Maryam, for the best hour that I've had this year. Fantastic, just fantastic, perpetually memorable. What more can I say? So Diana, would you like to close for us this evening?
Let me unmuted. Good. Am I muted or unmuted?
Unmuted.
Okay, thank you. What a wonderful series of poetry from two of the people who have been part of this poemical society for such a long time. And Marina, a little bit longer, but more interspersed, I think, with the years that you have been here and you have been away, and even being away in your exile or home stay in Melbourne. It is so wonderful to have had you here several times during this fall, or well, whatever this is now. I've lost track of time. Anyway, what the rest of you should know is that last Friday, Marina, in addition to preparing this poetry reading, actually completed her PhD, not only her thesis, but her orals, which took place via this same instrument of Zoom. Helen Bendler was there, Verena Connelly, Mark, what's Mark's last name?
Shell.
You all zoomed in and had a wonderful oral. So we can say that Marina is now, or soon to be, whenever degrees are formally conferred, not only Marina Connelly, but Dr. Connelly. We're very, very proud of you over these many years, since Dorothy and I first knew you, and you were a freshman in Harvard Hall, right above the president's office.
Long time ago.
Reserves for only the most trustworthy of undergraduates. And then Maryam, we have heard your poetry often in our poemicals as we have sat together and read the sort of things that the rest of us picked out of other poets, and then listened with great joy to the things that you brought to us. Given your background, your sort of Iranian heritage, the wonderful sensibilities you have, and now in these last weeks, your locus down there in Galveston on the sort of fringe of a seashore that is so different from the ones that we know. And thinking of you on your balconies in Galveston, joining in with us and reading this powerful poetry and talking about what I think the line was, there was a moment. And there was a moment, many of them this evening, but there were moments that we have brought to bear in our lives and recognized with the awareness that is so utterly profound, that whole process of awareness. And then Marina, you also brought to us that memory that some of us cherish and still remember of a member of our senior common room, Bill Kraut, who passed away in hospice during that huge, huge, huge snow winter when it was, you talk about the taxi going there, but the taxi could only wind its way through streets that were piled high with snow on either side. And that was a wonderful memory when you talked especially about what you profoundly called faith, hope, and so forth. I love that. Faith, hope, and so forth. And the thing that all of us feel, I wish I could see me through your eyes. And with the eyes of poetry, you have enabled us to see something of ourselves. I hope you have seen something of us as well. And this has been really a wonderful evening just to hear two of our writing poets. And you're not the only ones. I mean, there are others who write poetry. Certainly Kevin has published many wonderful books of poetry. And our own Gary has written poetry that has moved us to the core. And you brought your own poetry to us. And so next week on the 1st of May, it's not really a Tuesday, is it? When is our May Day this year?
Friday.
It's Friday next week. So we'll have our annual May 1st Friday poetry reading, in which all of us will bring things that we'd like to read. And some things that we've written ourselves, and some things that we have gleaned from others in this time. I think all of us feel the sort of poetic urgency of this time as well, that there are things going on in this world that none of us have imagined or experienced before. We do not know how to interpret the world that we live in. We do not know what our college, our university, our community of people will be like in the next month or the next year. But what I do hope is that our Poemical Society will continue to gather in one way or another, simply because poetry is one of the things that is the language of the soul in this time. And I think last time I couldn't find anything that felt more relevant than on Dover Beach. And all of those poems, I think we may find things that we'd like to bring to one another next week when we gather on May 1st. But let's also remember that May 1st is also a beginning, the beginning of our spring season, the season that has been so powerfully with us, those of us who are here in Cambridge, and that is marked by the red buds turning of the trees in Harvard Yard, and the greening of the campus, and the blossoming of the blossoming trees, the blossoming pear trees, etc. Such a beautiful time, and a time that makes us miss one another and our students and our community more than ever. But that's what this evening has meant, to have two of our own poets reading and hopefully publishing before long the things that have managed to touch us to the core. And thank you, Maryam, thank you, Marina. And Kevin, would you have a final word, please?
Well, I agree with you, Diana. Next week when we gather again, let us think of rejuvenation and renewal and optimism. Despite all the unacknowledged threats which surround us at the moment, we need to support each other with only good thoughts and wonderful poetry. So thank you for your fabulous words, Diana.
Thank you. And you know, I have had it on speaker view most of the time, but now that I see it on the screen view and I see this wonderful set of squares of everyone, I'd like to take a photo if I may. This is really one of those moments when you can see, at least in part, some of the things that have been most remarkable about these times, which is that we have just an amazing number of people gathered together on one screen. I mean, what are we to do with these times? But we can rejoice that the times have been able to bring us zooming together. And
Diana and Kevin, I'd love to thank you for pulling this together. And Marina and Maryam, that was a beautiful, beautiful hour of poetry. Thank you so much. And I'd love to invite many of our students who have not read poetry here before to come with your own poems or other poems on next Friday and share them with us. We'd love to hear all of your voices. I know some of you on this call I've sat and talked to about your poetry who I haven't heard, and I'd love to hear you. So this is a warm invitation to hear many voices next Friday on May 1st. So please come and join us.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so
so
can
much.
we clap?
And thank
Thank you, Maryam.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
David.
Marina. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. So at this point, let us sign off and meet next Friday. So thank you, David, if you were there as well. Good night.
I'm here.
Good night.
Brilliant,
Good
a
night.
brilliant evening. Thank you so much, and congratulations to both of our poets, and doubly so to Marina for her passage to the doctorate. That's a wonderful, wonderful moment. I'm so happy and joyous for you.
Thank you.
Marina, congrats from the poetry room too.
Oh, thanks, Christina.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Okay, leave meeting.
Thanks for joining.
That's what